The Supreme Court of the United States decided unanimously that the NCAA cannot enforce rules limiting education-related benefits that colleges offer to student athletes. The ruling will help determine whether schools decide to offer athletes tens of thousands of dollars in those benefits. And the opinions were scathing. Justin Kavanaugh wrote, "Nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing to not pay their workers a fair market rate on their theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate. The NCAA is not above the law." Again, it's very strongly worded, and it just packs a little more punch when the Supreme Court says it instead of someone like me. So Heather, Paul, and D. Wood with reaction. So Heather, for the sports fans out there who did not read all of this closely yesterday, some of them will be saying, well, wait a minute, does that mean now players are going to start getting paid? What did the ruling actually mean yesterday?
So to be clear, this is not pay for play, but it lends itself to more of that conversation. The immediate impact from yesterday's ruling is that campuses can now compensate their athletes for educational related expenses. That means laptops, study abroad trips, any expenses that come with internships, those types of things. But what it also does is the long-term impact that if enough justices agree with Kavanaugh, it could only be a matter of time before the NCAA's restrictions on compensation are considered illegal. Look, I can tell you the university presidents are here to talk about the college football playoff, 11 of them. West Virginia University President Gordon Gee walked through the lobby here in the hotel, and he said he had a heart attack after he saw the news yesterday. So this has everyone's attention.
Had a heart attack. Did he give any context as to why? Like what was it about it that caused him to feel that way?
Well, just the significance of what it could open the door to down the road. I mean, I think this really strengthens future lawsuits against the NCAA regarding amateurism. And it's not just it's not just related to the athletic department. This impacts universities as a whole.
Absolutely. So, Paul Finebaum, and no one deals in this stuff more than you do, talking about it literally every single day with this incredible array of callers that you have on your radio show. When you see the Supreme Court of the United States say the NCAA is not above the law, what is your reaction?
Greeny, think about this. This is the first time the Supreme Court has heard a case involving college athletics since 1985, when they shattered the television model as we currently have, or the one that we used to have, and opened the door for what we're doing now. So it's very, very important. And back to Gordon Gee, who's been the president of many schools, including Ohio State and Vanderbilt. The reason why those presidents in that room ought to be having a heart attack is because they just rehired the man who led this organization to slaughter, and that is Mark Emmert. I mean, I'm done talking about Mark Emmert in terms of his competence. That's no longer the case. But if the NCAA allows him to continue, it's mind-boggling, and they just gave him an extension. Any other CEO in America would have been fired the moment that ruling came out yesterday. But Mark Emmert's got a 6-year extension.
All right, and so, Damien Woody, I wanted to get a player's perspective as well, as one who played yourself at Boston College. When you read the words, "Nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing to not pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate." You were one of those workers. What do you think?
Listen, I think that was a sentiment of a lot of people out here, Greeny. And think about this. Everyone, you hear a lot of people talk about student athlete. Well, guess what? A lot of times, we got guys who are playing these sports. They can't even take the classes they want to take because it interferes with the athletic part of it. So don't give me this mess about student athlete and amateurism when guys can't even take classes that they want to take. Okay, miss me with all of that.
Very simply, D. Wood, when you went to school, you were a student, but did you feel like football was your job?
Absolutely. I knew why I was there. I was there to elevate the program. I was there to bring money in for the university. Okay? Everyone says student athlete. No, the athlete part comes first, and the student part is secondary.
All right, so that's the perspective that we wanted there. In the meantime, Heather is down in Dallas right now covering the continuation of the meetings here, the continuation of the process towards the possibility of expanding the college football playoff. Heather, what is the significance of today?
Today is clearing another hurdle, Greeny, and the commissioners
Okay.
are going to present that 12-team format to the 11 presidents and chancellors with the authority to change the playoff. My expectation is they get the green light to go do more work. Clemson University President Jim Clements was in the lobby. He said more conversation, more talking about it. We'll see what the timeline is, but I expect them to do more work this summer and report back in September.
All right, so they're continuing to move towards a 12-team playoff. Paul Finebaum, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with college athletics. These presidents just love to talk instead of getting things done. This should be about a 5-minute conversation, Greeny. There's nothing really left to do. You had some of the brightest minds in the business come up with this plan, and they were hired by those men and women in the room today. So this should be a rubber stamp, move on to the next step.
All right, it is a fascinating little juncture in collegiate sports, which, again, I think it is not overstating it to say may soon be changed forever in ways that will make them perhaps unrecognizable from what we've been accustomed to. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.